Hi, this is Sky Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to talk about every 2014 era D&D canon hardback. All right, so D&D 5th era, canon hardback. So 2014 to 2024. It was 10 years. It was an era of Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to talk about the D&D canon hardbacks that came out in that time, and I want to talk about numbers sold. I want to talk about metrics, right? For the 2024, the 5th era D&D canon hardbacks, right? So what are the numbers? What was the highest selling D&D canon hardback? What was the lowest selling 5th era D&D canon hardback between 2014 and 2024 before the release of the new core rule books? What's the numbers? Nobody knows. No one actually. No one outside of Hasbro knows those numbers, and no one within Hasbro has ever leaked them or even reported them in any way possible. No one knows. Nobody, right? And Hasbro has kept the numbers under wraps. Amazon has kept the numbers under wraps, and they are 100% right to do it. And why? Well, if you don't know this, data is gold. Information given to the public will never be used to benefit you. It will only be used to punish you. How do we know this? Well, I watch Grace Randolph. Brilliant. She's the best movie reviewer in the world. Absolutely love her channel. She is fantastic. And she just reported that Netflix has announced that it will absolutely no longer report metrics. It will not give the number of views that have been for any of its shows, right, going forward. They're going to give it out like 6 more months, and then they're cutting it off. They're like, we're not telling anybody. And the reason why is we tell people what these shows do, and people do nothing but complain. No one ever gives us any goodwill for it. There's no benefit to sharing information with the public. I 100% agree, right? It's one of the reasons why I absolutely love movies. Movies are the only industry left doing this. They've had a tradition for 100 years of sharing their numbers, and it's been great, but it's coming to an end, right? So what I want to talk about is they have kept the numbers secret on what every D&D canon hardback sold for 1 decade. That is astounding. And we actually don't know the numbers sold for any D&D canon hardback books if you discount what Ben Grimm said, and I do discount what Ben Grimm said in his book, Slaying the Dragon. And the reason why was, by his own admission, the numbers he got were pulled out of basements by highly disgruntled people who were frustrated with TSR, right? So these were not like, Hasbro going, oh, we have all the numbers from TSR. We got it when WotC handed it over. No, there's no official channel. These are literally just guys where I worked at TSR. I took these files home, and now I'm taking them out of my basement, and I'm giving you to Ben Grimm, right? That's my understanding of what he said in his book, right? You don't get metrics like that. To me, I kind of feel like it's garbage metrics, because the metrics are literally coming out of basements where they were 1 foot away from being garbage, right? Like, I don't feel we are trying to tell the history of Dungeons and Dragons and presenting numbers from people who are clearly disgruntled, right? I just don't think it's fair, right? So the reality is we don't know the numbers on any of it. And I just want to take a minute and say that's a big deal. Like, we've reached a point where we actually know that the numbers for every D&D canon hardback was kept secret for 10 years and for the entirety of the 5th era. That's pretty astounding, because information leaks all the time, and we've never gotten hard numbers on what these books sold, right? Now, I've been doing this a long time, and it is my opinion that every single D&D canon hardback has a print run of 100,000, and I don't think any of them outside of the core rule books have ever had a print run over 500,000. And I do think that the PHB, the DMG, and the MM all, okay, All three are over a million print. A million in print. Over a million in print. Those are the numbers I think are there. And that's my estimation, right? Okay, so now let's get to it. If we don't have a metric, and we know for a fact, right, that we went an entire decade of fifth era, we went for the entirety of fifth era and never got metrics, right? Then how do we fix this problem when we get the infinite edition? How do we know how it is doing compared to other tabletop role-playing games? So first of all, we're never going to know the book numbers. We're never going to know the book numbers, right? I'm convinced of that, because I think most companies are out of the business of sharing any data for free. And you know what? They're 100% right. All data is gold now. Data is the most valuable force. Data is the most valuable commodity of the modern era, right? Next to celebrity. Celebrity is beyond gold. It's so powerful, right? So sought after, right? People are literally willing to kill for it. Like it's pretty incredible, right? It's really something, right? There's virtually no end to what people will do in order to actually reach a point where they are celebrity. I don't think there's any limits anymore. So, all right. So what is the metric we can use to compare? So first of all, we're never going to get the book numbers. It's just not going to happen, right? But we can compare Dungeons & Dragons success, but we can get a metric for every single D&D Canon hardback that comes out under the Infinite Edition, right? For source books and adventures. This does not work for the DMG, the MM, and the Monster Manual. The DMG, the PHB, and the MM. Can't get those numbers. You'll see why once I explain it. So what is the metric? Here goes. Okay. We can compare D&D Canon hardback to D&D Canon hardback, and here's how. We can say, okay, we can't measure until 3 months, but we can say between 3 months after its release, how many actual plays are on YouTube on a channel that has more than 10,000 subs and the actual play has more than 3 sessions. That we can find out, right? We can look for actual plays for that book, and we could see how many actual plays actually went on YouTube, right? And that's a good metric, right? Like, if you don't have 10,000 subs, you're not big enough to count, right? Like, to count, your metrics, right? I just don't think there is, right? But do you have 10,000 subs? Did you do an actual play? Did that actual play last more than 3 sessions, right? And I think we'll be able to get a count on that, right? I think each D&D Canon book will be able to tell that number within 5 to 25. I think you'll find 5 to 25 for each book. And then some books will be way higher, some books will be way lower. And then we can measure. I think that is indicative of sales. I think that if the one number is higher, we can say, oh, it definitely sold more, because people are engaging with it more, right? Now you're like, Scott, that doesn't seem very scientific or very exact. You are correct, right? But it's the best we have, and we need to start tracking it and doing it now, and we need to prepare for it. And the reason why is if we don't, we'll have no idea which ones of the books are more successful than the others. But if we put this into place now, we can track it, right? And I'm going to give an attempt. I'm going to give an attempt to track these books according to the metric I just established. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.